You're about to experience a message from here at Southlake Church where we
engage, grow, and share.
So make sure to subscribe below and keep watching together as we engage, grow, share Jesus in our community relationships. Again, my name is Pastor Rob Bailey here from Southlake Church. We are going through a series called Stories. Now, God uses different people throughout history for His purpose, for His story. And we started off with Adam and Eve and how they began it all, but this week we see the story about Rahab. Now, just a reminder for us here at Southlake, we have a whole bunch of gatherings happening this week. So this Tuesday, we got P's and Q's. So if you got questions or looking to have a conversation with somebody, you can join us this Tuesday over at Craft 96. This next Wednesday morning, we have our Wednesday morning recap. So if you got questions for the sermon where you're not too sure to ask today, great way to have breakfast with us and just be together over at Kelly's. And of course, Wednesday nights now we have our online Bible study about being Southlake. And what does it mean to continue to engage, grow, share, to gather, to focus on relationships with Jesus? And then this Friday, we've got our women's gathering over at Duo. So if you're looking for a chance just to relax after the weekend or a friend and be together, join our ladies this Friday over at Duo. And of course, Saturdays we have Immerse over at Noah's Ark, a chance to continue to read through the Bible. And similar to today's message, reminder how God takes what He created and forms it the way He needs it. So check it out Saturdays. So with all that going on, we are focused on the story of Rahab. Now we're fast forwarding from Adam and Eve, a couple of generations, to God's people now coming into the land, the promised land, and He promised them. Now the question I've been thinking about this week and I asked the group is, how comfortable is it to join a new group of people, an organization, just to be with others? How comfortable is it? Thank you, Perhatus, in the back there. We're all giggling and laughing because it can be very awkward. It can be difficult at times. It can feel uncomfortable. In fact, has anybody here ever joined a new organization, a new group of people, community? I mean, I hope so. You guys are all coming into here. I mean, unless I didn't know about this place before you did. No, we're all joining and be a part of this. And I went back and thought about school. So I'm going to pick on myself, just because that way nobody feels like they have to raise their hand. Do you ever feel awkward in school? Zach, I love you, brother. Going and being in school can feel really awkward getting to meet new people and friends. So I was one of the tallest kids in my class, but it also means a lot of kids like to pick on the tallest kid to show that they're really tough. I also was probably one of the most goofiest looking kids in my class. I was also the biggest loudmouth in my class. I really was not that popular of a kid, just to think about it right now. But what that meant was it always was awkward to get into those different friend groups, those cliques, because I wasn't the popular one. Maybe that's where I got my humor from, because it helps diffuse everything most of the time. But it can be weird and awkward. Are there other groups in our life that sometimes it feels difficult to join and be a part of? And unfortunately, what's an obvious one we can all shout out that can be really awkward to join and be a part of, unfortunately? Church. Wait. The response was Lutherans from the back row there. You're really enjoying being in the back, aren't you, right now? Yeah, so church, unfortunately, becomes a place that can be really uncomfortable. Why? Well, new people, new customs, new rituals, but what else? And this is the heart of why we need to talk about this. That's true. The pastor could be a difficult person to join a new church. That is absolutely true there. But a lot of times, either we don't feel like we should be there or we belong, or others judge you.
We feel like everybody at church is further along in their Christianity than we are.
Yeah, okay, that's another good one too, which we'll bring that up. is it feels like when you get there, you're like, oh, great, they're already doing stuff. They're already a part of stuff. How am I going to fit in together with it? Well, unfortunately, the church does show that and be a part of that. In fact, here's maybe a little tougher question. What is the hardest group, club, within our universe or outside our universe to join, to get into? What is the hardest thing? The cool kids. So what are the cool kids that go beyond anything even here on earth? What's the hardest place to get into? Heaven. And let's think about this. I believe that there is a God who created all things. And if he created all things, there is a way things are supposed to go. And a lot of faiths and backgrounds would say there's that right way of doing things. Well, if that God created the right way, or that God is the right way, what would probably make him be? I'm guessing he's perfect and not flawed. And so if God is perfect, if he's not flawed, and I love the fact some people are like, why do you keep on saying the word if? Just, we're working through this. If he's perfect, can he in heaven be around imperfect things? If he's perfect. You think a perfect thing could be around imperfect things? Because what would make that thing if it's around imperfect things? Imperfect. See, that's the problem. Some of you are Christians here, and you're already skipping ahead of what this all means. The problem is, to be around God, you have to be perfect. Why? Because he's perfect. And the problem is, a lot of you are here coming up with the whole talk about Jesus stuff already. Why? Because we realize, are we good enough to be next to a perfect God? No. But we're going to get to that. Ourselves, we are not good enough to be a part of this by ourselves. And the reason why is, you might be a good person. I actually might be a good person. In fact, I think I might just be a good person. But all the bad things I do, I said do, all those bad things keeps me from being a part of somebody who's perfect. And I can't give enough money, I can't do enough acts of service to fix what I've done. I can't get in. So the question, how do we? And yeah, spoiler alert, something to do with Jesus comes into play. Well, our reading today has to do with Rahab. So who is she? She's a citizen of one of the largest cities in the land called Jericho. And in this city, they're noticing that there's these group of people that have been traveling on the eastern side of the Jordan River, taking out kingdom after kingdom. Cities that people consider to be tough places to fight against. In fact, in Revelation, they'll even bring up these kings' names, Og and stuff like that. And they're watching how, wait a second, they're undefeatable, and all of a sudden these group of people with their God defeats them. Another one across the river, which we couldn't beat, they just beat. How do you think the people in that city are feeling right now? Scared. What's going on here? Because here's the thing. Our customs, our religion, all those things are completely different than these people and their God. So something's not right here. So we have the story of a person named Rahab. And she has a house. And anybody pick up where her house is located? In the city wall, which is typical for that time. So your house is part of the actual, one of the walls is part of the actual wall of the city. So imagine being on the outside in your house, inside your house, looking on the outside and seeing a large group of people wanting to attack your city. Is that a nice view? No, but they're watching this. They know this is coming and happening. Well, one day, two guys show up to scout out the city. And anybody pick up on where they chose to spend their night? The house of a prostitute. For some reason, it never really hit me till this week when I read that going, I wonder why they were located there of all places. But these two guys are checking out the city. My guess, though, is loose lips sink ships is a phrase, right? There's a good chance they're listening to who people are also visiting the house, things they're talking about, worried about, hearing how people feel about knowing that this group of people are coming. Well, Rahab realizes who these two people are. And even the king's trying to get these two people. And she realizes, you know what? No matter who I am, how good Jericho is and what we built up, are we going to survive this group of people, this God? No. So she's got a choice. She can either help her king get these two and delay the inevitable, or save who? Herself and her family. So she goes to these two spies. She helps them out, protects them from getting captured, but she asks them, don't forget about me. Don't forget about my family. So they tell her, when we do finally attack the city, when we take down these giant walls, what are you supposed to do? Stay home and do what? Hang lower the red rope as a sign that, hey, this is that household that saved you guys. Now, does that make more sense, knowing that her home is part of the wall, that she would hang out something out her own house window so people could tell where she's located? So that's what's happening here. Now, why are we talking about Rahab? Because again, she's a prostitute, and some people make an argument she might even be the head of the prostitutes since she has a house, but that's a P's and Q's kind of discussion. She's not of God's people. In fact, right up until this point, she still doesn't believe in that God. Probably never even heard of him. All she knows is this God is taking out these different kingdoms, and nobody can stop him. So what's happening? What I see here in a parallel in our lives is literally think about ourselves with what God's doing. If God is this perfect God, and only perfect things can be with him, when you look at our man-made things that we build up ourselves, can we survive that onslaught? No. No matter what we do, no matter what we build, we're not going to save it. So the problem is, or the question becomes, then how do we join it? Like Rahab, how do we be a part of what God's doing, since obviously we can't do it ourselves? And the answer is, and it comes down to, is faith, but faith in who? Jesus. So for those who've been uncomfortable for the last 10 minutes, yes, this all leads back to Jesus. So the question then is, why even talk about Rahab? Well, there's a book called Hebrews. It's in the last part of our New Testament. And in chapter 11, guess who's named as a champion of faith for God in his story? Rahab. She gets remembered by God's people for what she did in that faith. But that's not the only place she's remembered. Anybody know the other location? Matthew chapter 1. When Matthew shares the story, the genealogy of Jesus, guess who gets named in Jesus' family? Rahab. She is the great mother of Jesus. The point I'm bringing up here is how God used her, worked through her, that a red vine, rope, thread leads us to who Jesus is. So now if you have the app with you, you can see I had another story, and there's a story of Zacchaeus. And the reason why I added that, and just to touch on it, while Jesus was traveling, he walked by a city called Jericho. Does that city sound familiar, Jericho? It's the same city that Rahab is, rebuilt. And while he's walking there, a tax collector sees him, named Zacchaeus, wee little man. Well, Zacchaeus is a tax collector. Guess how the public saw him? Not well, low, below. How do you think the people saw Rahab as a prostitute? Very low, like not very good. So there's a lot of parallels here. And what does Jesus end up doing with Zacchaeus? He eats with them, parties with them, and welcomes them into the family. Jesus seeks out those and helps bring them part of God's family. So the question becomes, then how do we become part of his family? Well, he believed this so much and cared about this that he died for you and for me, to be able to be a part of God's family. Are we perfect people? No. But because of Jesus, are we perfect with God now? Yes. And we see that whole story, all that coming together, because we see how God picks somebody like Rahab and brings her into family. He can bring you and I together into his family too. So what does that mean going forward? If Jesus brings us into the family, if we can be with God, what do we do about it now? Do we just sit around and relax and enjoy life until that time comes? Simon's like, absolutely. That sounds like a great idea. And a day like today, some hot cocoa would be great, right? We're supposed to help people experience that relation of Jesus, to know that they too are a part of that family. Are they broken and hurting just like all of us? Yes. But here's the thing, especially here at Southlake, you don't need to be perfect to be a part of this group. In fact, if you were perfect, I'd kick you out because, well, then you'd come up here and preach. No, we all do this together. We are hurting, we mess up, we are broken, but we also believe that we have a God who loves us and puts us together. And there's a lot of people outside our doors, and maybe you watching right now, have heard that you need to fix your life and make things work. Have you heard that before? I can tell you, without him, it's never going to be fixed. Which is why we meet together, gather together, why we do all this. So as we move forward with this good news, being part of that family, for those who received our email, we have an assessment to learn how is God using you to be part of his family right now. In fact, some people have taken it already, and I love the fact that some of them have pastoral gifts. What that means is they love and care and pray for people, which is great, because I'm the guy who's out. It's a good thing to have. There's people who love talking to one another and counsel. So please join us. Learn more about how God is using you a part of his story, just like Rahab, because we're all doing this together. And the other piece of this is be able to share that story with others, especially with your family. And I know that can be scary and difficult. So in February at Southlake, we're going to host Learning How to Tell Your Story. Well, last week I said we should share our story because, Adam and Eve's a part of our story. Somebody like Rahab, which you might have heard of before, or maybe this is the first time, part of her story leads to Jesus. Your story leads to other people experiencing Jesus too. And we want to help you learn how to tell that story. So that'll be in February, and I'm excited when that all happens together. We're Southlake Church, a group of people gathering together to engage, grow, and share. Why? Because for Jesus and our community relationships. That's a story that you are a part of, I'm a part of, and we do this together. And why I'm excited we're Southlake. Amen? Amen. Join me.